My name is Rama, and I've been a registered behavior technician for 2 years. And I want to talk about what that experience is like. I know there are a lot of more seasoned RBTs who've been in this field for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, a long time. But a registered behavior technician is pretty much a therapist who works one on one with children on the autism spectrum. These therapists are trained to help increase the client's communication, functional communication, decrease problem behaviors, and increase behaviors that we do want to see using a wide range of different techniques. So, my first client was this young little boy named Caleb. He was 8 years old at the time, and he came from a Hispanic household. The only reason why I mentioned the ethnicity is because I've come to understand that culture has a lot to do, like duh, but like culture has a lot to do with how people raise their children. So Caleb was a very sweet kid. He was very sweet, very quirky. I remember I guess this is how normal kids are, but like one week he'd like just be obsessive about a certain character, some animated character. The next week it'd be another thing. Like when I first started working with him, he really loved Mario and Luigi. Maybe like 2 weeks later it was what was it? It was like Pokemon. He was really good at drawing. He really loved art. But he was my first client, and the training that I got after my initial training, like I did my 40-hour training, passed the state exam, and then the first day working with this client, a care coordinator came with me to help out with the first day. And I think she had said she was an RBT for 4 years at this point. So, she pretty much just showed me the ropes. Looking back on it, through I want to call it my career because I don't plan on changing this field of work that I'm in. But sorry, I don't know why I'm salivating so much. Wait. You could tell that she was the type of employee that kind of knew the ropes of the job, knew, how things work. And she just told me what I needed to do, but she didn't really explain why these things needed to be done. It was kind of like, do this, do this, do this. And so like the second day that I was there, that was like the day that, I was on my own. And I really had no idea how to like connect with my client. Like I had no idea. Like that's the thing that they don't really teach you in that 40-hour training. Like they teach you what pairing is, but it's like they talk about things in like a very not regular term way. Like pairing, I would describe pairing as like playing, making sure that you and the client are having a good time. There's smiles, there's laughter. You can tell that the client is enjoying it. But pairing, how it was described in the training, was like highly reinforcing, no demands being placed on the client. But it was like I didn't really know how to create a fun environment for the kid. It took a long time for me to learn what he found entertaining and fun. But that was the easiest client I worked with. I often couldn't even tell how he was on the autism spectrum because he just seemed normal to me. Like he had normal behaviors. Like if we played a game and he lost the game, he'd cry. But I'm like, I cried when I was 8 years old and 7 years old. When I lost the game, I cried. So it was like, that was like something that was stressed to me by his mom. She's like, he's always crying when he loses a game. And she like wanted me to fix it. And I'm like, he's crying because he lost the game. Like, is that really unrealistic? Like, as you grow up and get older, nobody taught me how to stop crying when the game ends. I just taught myself. I just learned, like, I don't need to cry every time I lose a game because it's just a game. But I had really good supervisors at the time. It's just that I didn't really know what questions to ask my supervisors to get any type of support because I really didn't understand. It was like I would get my supervision, but it was like I really didn't know what to ask, how to get help. But he ended up graduating because of the data that I was taking. And, he was meeting all those targets. So he ended up graduating. And I had been working with him at that time for about a year. So he knew me for a year. I knew him for a year. I knew the family. The most beautiful thing about that experience is when I met the family, the mom was pregnant. And during my time being there, I got to see her pregnant and I got to see her give birth and I got to see her child grow up and learn how to walk and learn how to like communicate. And it was a very pleasurable experience. I remember when they, came home from the hospital and she showed us pictures, I remember hearing the kids talking about their excitement for the new baby that's coming. And, I got to see them interact with the baby. I got to see what that was all like from a different perspective. Because when you're in the family and your mom, brings home a child, it's different when you're in the family, but observing that from the outside, it was kind of cool to see that. And I remember when my client found out, like, he was going to be graduating and that we only had like a month left together, like the last week of the month, he was like, "Oh, Miss Rayma, you're going to be going soon." And I was like, "Yeah, Caleb, it's okay." And then on Tuesday, he was like, "Oh, Miss Rayma, it's almost time for you to leave." And he was emotional, but his emotions confused me because they seemed very animated. Like, you could obviously tell when he was upset. It's like he didn't really hide it. It was just very animated, very like clear how he was feeling. But it was so clear to the point where I'm like, it almost seemed fake, like performative. I don't know how to explain it. But and then like on Wednesday, he was like, "Oh, Miss Rayma, you leave on Friday." And then on Thursday, he was like, "Oh, Miss Rayma, you leave tomorrow." And then on Friday, he was like, "Oh, Miss Rayma, it's your last day." And I've got close to the whole family. They ended up getting me gifts. And that was a very pleasurable experience. I was going through a lot in my personal life in the background of that. So I was, I'm happy to look back and see that my personal life was not affecting the relationship that I was having with that client at the time. But I look back and I 100% feel like not ashamed of myself, but I feel disappointed because there was so much I didn't know at the time that I know now that could have helped, that situation that I was in. I've learned so much, and that's why I love this field because there's no end to the learning. You can keep learning, you can keep finding new information. It's like you'll never stop, and that's why I like it. So I kind of feel, some way about that because I'm like, I just wish I would have known what I know now. The next client I ended up getting was at a company called Spectrum Support. And when I applied to this company, I let the lady know, I've been working for a year. I'm already credentialed. And, we did our interview. She immediately hired me. It sounded really good. The owner of the company, she was a BCBA. She's a BCBA. She started the company herself, got her own employees, opened up her own practice. She said that she herself is autistic and she knows what it's like being in these programs. And when she was younger, things were a lot different. And she would often, talk to the parents and talk to me about some of the trauma that she has from being in that system, because the whole ABA therapy system, treating autistic kids, behavioral therapy, that is all very, very, very sensitive information. And I've looked into it a little bit myself, but I know that it was not very humane in the beginning, and they did things like electrical shock therapy and stuff like that. They really didn't, in my opinion, I feel like they treated the people not like people, almost like because they couldn't understand the person, they didn't treat them like a person because they didn't understand who they actually were, how they actually felt. They couldn't really express themselves in a way that could be understood. So I feel like they weren't really treated humanely at all. But the next client I got was from her company, and she was paying me a lot higher. Like my first wage, my starting wage at the first company was $23 an hour. And at the time, I was working at Target making $15 an hour. So I was like, oh. And the crazy thing is, like, I don't even remember applying to that job. I was applying to a bunch of jobs on Indeed, and one day the company was like, hey, have you ever babysat before? And I was like, yeah, I babysat. They were like, you're hired. And they sent me my offer letter. So I was making $23 an hour. But what they didn't tell you is that your hours aren't guaranteed. Like, you could get a client that only needs 15 hours a week, or you can get a client that needs 30 hours a week. So they don't tell you that, you know. And so, you know, I was only working 15 hours a week and making $23 an hour. You know, it was very hard at the time. My income was very low, and I didn't expect that. So I was struggling. But I ended up getting another client at the other company. And this was my first time working with a child that was nonverbal or non-speaking. I believe she did make sounds, so she had some vocal stereotypy. I don't remember if she had any physical stereotypy, but I see, it's like I have different branches of thoughts. I'm trying to stay just focused. But so, you know, I still didn't really know how to form connections with these kids. I didn't really know how to build relationship. I didn't really know how to be fun and engaging. So it was like, you can't really work with somebody. You can't really teach a person until that relationship is established. And so, you know, the family really appreciated my help. They got the services because they really needed the services. And, you know, the BCBA, the owner of the company, the CEO, she gave off the vibes that she really wanted to be friends. And she really wanted to talk about personal things. And I was always afraid because I'm like, I don't want to talk about personal things with my boss, like the person who is doing my paychecks. Like, I don't really want to talk about those things. But when she would come in person and supervise, like, that's all she would do. She would just come, sit on the couch, talk with the mom, you know, tell her stories and everything, but she would not train me. And she also had a clinic. And so one day, you know, she was telling the mom, like, you know, let's see how she does in the clinic. There's so many different activities for her to do. And so like, this is what I mean when I say I didn't really know how to build a relationship. Like, I would follow the client around, you know, watch what she was engaging in. But when she would engage with it, I wouldn't know how to engage with her in that same thing, like that joint attention. I didn't really know how to do that. So she went to the swing and she was just swinging. She wouldn't ask for help to swing. She just get on the swing and swing. So I'm just like, what do I do? Like, I like, she's swinging by herself. I can't really swing with her. You know, I'm really heavy. So if I try to get on the swing with her, I'm going to break it. So I'm like, what do I do? And, you know, the girl who was helping me, because it was me, another therapist, my client, and then the BCBA. The BCBA and the other girl and the other therapist, they were just chopping it up, talking. But the other therapist at some points would step in and help me. And she's like, oh, go push her on the swing. And, like, you know, I'll show you. And she would show and model different things for me on how to interact with her. And I was like, oh, okay. So the other therapist did a better job at training me and teaching me things in the BCBA. And so what happened was, one day is I needed to take a day to get my medication sorted out because I was out of my medication at the time. You're not supposed to come off of it cold turkey. And I don't know why I didn't do it before that day. You know, I don't know why I didn't do it before that day, but I think that was the day that I ran out. And I just asked the BCB, I was like, hey, I really need to take the day to see what I could do about my medication. I don't know why I'm salivating. It's like my cheeks, like, I don't know. Anyway, um, yeah, I asked the BCBA, I was like, can I take the day to get this medication problem sorted out? She's like, oh yeah, go ahead, take all the time you need. Just let me know when you're ready. And so, the next day I came back to work. I was driving to work and she calls me and she's like, hey, I just want to let you know I'm dropping you as my employee and you don't have to worry about going to work today. I already got somebody there. I got it covered. And enjoy the rest of your day. And so I didn't really understand what that meant. But then when I thought about it, I was like, wait a minute, did I just get fired? Like, she really fired me for no reason. And I think she fired me because she felt like she didn't want to have to train me. If she's paying me, because that's what I'm saying. When I got started at $23 an hour, I had only been working at this point for a year. So she was paying me $28 an hour. And I guess she felt like she shouldn't have to be training somebody, paying this amount of money for them. You know, like, if I'm paying you all this money, you should know more. I shouldn't have to step in and train you. But I'm like, how do you learn in this position? You're only taught what you get from that 40-hour training. I think it's like every 6 months or something, you have to do like the recompetency assessment or competency assessment so that they can assess that you still know what you're doing. But when you're getting supervised, like, most of the supervisors won't really step in and train you unless you specifically ask for it. They'll just sit on their computers, you know? So it's like, I guess she felt like, you know, she didn't want to have to train me as much as, you know, she saw that I needed to be trained and I wanted to be trained. So I ended up getting fired from that client. And it was so sad because like the family called me 2 weeks later and they're like, Rayma, what happened? And I was like, she fired me. And she was like, she didn't even tell us. Like, she didn't even tell us. They just sent this other girl and we thought you were going to come back and you've never come back. And I was like, yeah, she just fired me. Like, there was nothing. And she was like, wow, like, if you ever want to file a lawsuit, let me know because I will gladly sign and be a part of that. And I was like, thank you. But the family did really, I could tell that they really, really wanted me there. They really wanted the support. The mom seemed to like me. We had a good connection. I could tell that she trusted me with her daughter. And that is a good feeling, to be trusted by somebody's parents. Like, if I had kids, you know, when I do have kids, their safety and protection is going to be my everything. So the fact that I know who I am, I know what I've done, but these parents look at me and they trust me with their children, it is like, it fills me up with so much like love because it's like, wow, like somebody trusts me. It is like, you don't want to break it. I don't want to break it. I don't want to do anything that would jeopardize that trust. So a few years, like a couple months later, I ended up getting another client at the first company I started to work at. The first company I started with, and this client now was the second non-speaking client I worked with. But this client, oh my goodness. So this client, he was 3 years old at the time, and he was non-speaking, but pretty much from the time that he woke up to the time that he went to sleep, he was just stimming all day long. From the time that he woke up to the time that he went to sleep, he was stimming. And that consisted of vocal stereotypy, just yelling, vocalizing, making different sounds with his voice, but not really using his voice to communicate. And then jumping around, scooting around. He liked to flop objects on the floor. And so when I first started working with this client, you know, I was like, how in the world do I get in? Because like his attention was always here. He barely looked up and looked around. Like, it was always here. He occupied himself all day long with just stimming. And so it was like, how do I break that just long enough to get his attention? And it took a few days. And then I noticed he really loves singing. Nobody told me that. but I just observed it. He would watch Miss Rachel, and he liked to watch Miss Rachel every single day, all day long. And Miss Rachel likes to sing a lot, sing different songs. And so I noticed if I just go, the wheels on the bus, he would be like, he would stop what he was doing and give me his attention immediately, almost as if like I called his name, and he did not respond to his name. He didn't respond to look, hey, hi, hello. Like I said, it was always here. So as soon as I noticed that singing got his attention, I was like, okay, well, this is like, I didn't really know at that time how to deliver instruction during that time. Cause like, well, I'll explain that later, but like, I would sing the wheels on the bus go round and round, and he would just stay engaged with me the whole time. And as soon as I stopped singing, it was right back to what he was doing. And so, over time, I started to learn the songs that he liked. And every day for pretty much 4 hours, in 5 hours, I'd be singing the wheels on the bus, the itsy bitsy spider, the ants go marching. Like all day long, I was singing little kid songs, and I had to memorize them because I'm like, if this is the only way I can keep his attention, and he's smiling, he's engaged with me, then this is what I have to do. Like, this is what I have to do. And, I remember like when I would first come in, when he was flapping objects on the floor, and I came and sat with him, he would stay there and flap the objects. But if he was kind of just jumping up and down, if I walked over to him, he'd move away. It was like these avoidance behaviors. Like he really didn't want to be around me. And I would come into work sometimes. Some days I didn't even want to go into work because I just felt like I was just doing such a terrible job. Like I don't know what I'm doing. Like my training at this point is all out of the door, because it's like, how do you pair with somebody and the way that they have fun, the way that they interact with the world isn't a normal way. Like if he's playing on the floor, flapping a bunch of trash around on the floor, how do I play with you? Like, I don't even think you should be playing with trash. So it's like, how do I engage with you? I was like, it took a long time. And it took a long time. Oh my gosh, look at that. Okay, whatever, I'm not gonna think about it. It took a long time for me to actually feel like I was being effective. Until I got with a supervisor earlier this year. And he has been the best supervisor I've ever worked with. And it's like, maybe it was the right time, because if I would have had him before, I probably wouldn't have felt that way about him. But because at this point I was just so desperate for some guidance, he came in and he did exactly that. When it was time for in-person supervision, he like put his things down and immediately went straight for my client. He took over the session and was modeling things with me, showing me things, even like doing like teaching me things between me and him. Like he was just every single thing that I needed in that moment. And he always assured me, he's like, Rayma, you're not doing anything wrong. Like every single day that you come up, even by you showing up, that is already doing something. You're still connecting with him. You're still building that relationship with him. He's taught me about honoring communication and how any type of communication needs to be honored, especially with somebody who we're trying to increase communication with. So if him avoiding me and moving to another side of the room, that is communication. He didn't say anything. He didn't make a noise. He just moved his body. That was a form of communication. He did not want me to interact with him. And oftentimes with this client, I've had to let him come to me. I couldn't just come and approach him with something. He's had to come to me. But the only way that he would come to me is if I was singing or had something that was desirable to him. And like, this little boy, you can hand him building blocks. He's not going to build the blocks. He's going to take the blocks and flop them on the floor. He's not going to play with the item how you would expect for it to be played with. But again, to the supervisor, like Best supervisor I had, I really liked him. I had a lot of respect for him, and he taught me a lot during his time of being my supervisor. And so during this time, he taught me how I could use the singing and throw in one step directions. So if we're doing the wheels on the bus, we can do some motor imitation. So we do the doors on the bus go open and shut, open and shut, open and you wait. And because he's heard this song so many times, he's seen the motion so many times, you wait and wait for some type of response. And he would go, like as if he wanted you to continue doing what you were doing. And so from there, we would shape it. And so I would take his hands and I would go open and shut. And so through repetition, it only took maybe like a day or two for me to start singing that song again. And when I would pause, he would do it with me, that motor imitation. And then we did the people on the bus go up and down. And so he showed me how to like throw those one step directions, the motor imitation. Like even when it came to him responding to his name, because like I said, if he's stimming, he's staying here. And it's so crazy that from last June, when I started working with him, all the way up into this year's June, I wouldn't say there was much progress. Like if it literally was, I felt dread going into work because I felt like I was just not being effective at all, and I wanted to, but I just didn't know how to. And then when I got that supervisor in June, from June to August, that was when so many things started happening, like him responding to his name. Like when I would call his name, he wouldn't respond. But I started doing things like I would get a snack that he liked, gummies. And I would say, Luca. And if he just looked at any point, like sometimes he would look, sometimes he wouldn't. But if he looked, I'd be like, look. And I'd show him the gummy. He'd come over and get the gummy. So that when I'm calling his name and he's giving me his attention, I'm not associating it with placing demands on him or telling him that he has to do something. I'm literally just getting his attention. And it's so crazy that like from, like I said, from that year to June, I couldn't really see much. But it's like after that, it was like, I wish I could explain it, but it was like, I just started to see so many things. And it, like one day, out of nowhere, my client, he just came and sat in my lap like he was a baby. Like I was literally sitting on the floor and he just came and sat in my lap and like put his head on my chest and just laid there. And I was like, don't move. Like don't move or he's gonna get up and go away. Like I wanted him to stay there and I just wanted to enjoy that moment because I'm like, what did I do? Like I didn't do anything. Like he literally just came over and just decided to sit in my lap, and he had never done that before. I noticed around this time he was becoming very physically physical with me, not in a bad way, but like holding my hand, taking my hand. Like now we're in at about 18 months with him. No, it's about to be 19 months. Because it's June, July, August, September, October, November. So a year and 5 months. Now, I want to say if you call his name 8 out of 10 times, he will respond. He will look at you. He will give you his attention. The only time he will not give you his attention is when he just doesn't want to. When he's doing something that he wants to do, he's not going to give you his attention. If you tell him to do something, come here, pick that up, go upstairs, or not go upstairs, but like, give me your cup. Those one-step directions, he can follow multiples. Whereas before, it's like you couldn't place any demands on him if you didn't have his attention. So it's like his whole giving you his attention has just dramatically changed. And the only thing that I can give credit to is the fact that he started to see that me being there was helping him to communicate. Like we used his AAC device. And I feel like that's what really kind of